Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. In today's lecture, we'll discuss about kinship and religion. We'll discuss about the institution of kinship. In our last lecture, we discussed two institutions, that is family and marriage, and kinship is another institution, important institution of society. Kinship is universal and represents one of the basic social institution. It is one of the basic institution. It provides a framework of social relationships. How social relationship exist, persist in this universe, kinship provides the framework of that. What does kinship mean? Kinship means relationship of the individual with other members based either on marriage or blood ties. That is relationship between individuals, a relationship of an individual with other members. This relationship is based either on marriage or blood ties. So relationship is based on two things, that is on the basis of marriage or blood ties. Kinship bonds are very strong, and such ties are fundamental importance in every society all over the world. Kinship is that part of a culture through which relations are socially recognized through birth or through marriage or adoption. So, as we told, that it is either based on marriage or based on blood ties. So, relationships are socially recognized through birth or through marriage. Murdoch. Murdoch says that it is a structural system of relationship in which individuals are bound to one another by complex interlocking and ramifying ties. As per Redcliffe Brown, kinship system is a part of social structure and insist upon study of kinship as a field of rights and obligations. According to Redcliffe Brown, it's a part of a social structure, and he insisted upon studying a kinship as a field of rights and obligations, as we all are bonded with each other because of certain relationship, either because of the marriage or because of the blood ties, right? So there are certain rights and certain obligation is associated with this institution known as kinship. Kinship system refers to a set of a person recognized as relatives either by virtue of blood relationship called the consanguinity or by virtue of marriage relationship, that is through what is called affinity. So if people are related to each other by through blood ties, they are called consanguine, and if they are related with each other because of the marriage, then that is known as, that relationship or that kinship system is known as affine. There are certain principles of descent. Principle of descent, it's very important in kinship. Descent is the principle whereby child is socially affiliated with the group of his or her parents. Why marriage is required? One of the objective is to give the social affiliation to the child. So, this kinship system, because of this kinship system, child is socially affiliated with the group of his or her parents. In some society, child is regarded as descent equally of both father and the mother, except the titles and the surname, and are usually passed down along the male line. Such system is termed as bilateral system, and there are some cognitive system where individual has the right by descent to membership of several cognitively recruited group, but this right is actualized only if a person is able to reside in a particular group's territory. So to which group a child belongs, uh, it totally depends on the social system of that child. That system could be bilateral. Bilateral means the child is considered as descent equally of both mother and father, right? While in some system there is unilineal descent. Unilineal is the child is affiliated either with the group of the father, that is patrilineal descent, or with the group of the mother, that is matrilineal descent. If child is known by the name of his father, then that is known as the patrilineal descent. And if child is affiliated with the group of the mother, then that is known as matrilineal descent. In some society, child is affiliated to the group of either parent, depending on the choice, or one parent for some purpose and to other parent for other purposes. Then that is known as double unilineal descent. So unilineal descent, bilateral descent, and double unilineal descent. Unilineal descent, that the child is affiliated either with the father's group or the mother's group. That is patrilineal group or mother's group. Then that is unilineal. Double unilineal is when the child is affiliated to group of either parents, either mother or parents or both, right? For some purpose for one group and another purpose for with another group, then that is known as double unilineal group. The principle of unilineal descent provides the individual an unambiguous identification with a bounded social group that exists before he or she is born, and that has continuity after he or she dies. Member of decent group have sense of shared identity, and this is often referring to brothers and sisters, and even when no genealogical relationship can be traced. So what is the purpose of decent group? The members of decent group shared a common identity. There is a feeling of we, and they are referred to as a brother and sister, although there is no direct relationship between them. What are the functions of these decent groups? The members may often come together for ritual and ceremonial functions. The group will have built-in authority structure with power normally exercised by the senior male, or it may well on corporate property. The individual's economic right and responsibilities will be defined by his or her position in the decent group. So, what are the functions of the decent group? That the people come together for some ritual and ceremonial functions. Then there is a well defined structure, authority structure, right? And this decent group this decent group plays important role in inheritance of the property, and the economic rights and responsibilities are well defined by the position that one holds in that decent group, and the rules of inheritance tend to coordinate with the estimate decent in most society, as I told you. Rule of inheritance in most parts of the India, the immovable properties such as the land and the housing was inherited by the sons, and in absence of sons, except under rare circumstances, the nearest male relatives on the father's side. And movable properties like cash and other things sometimes goes to females, the daughters. The movable property in form of cash and jewelry was given to the daughter at the time of marriage, with a certain amount of jewelry also passing from mother-in-law to daughter-in-law. So movable property, that is the daughters inherits the movable properties and the son inherits immovable property. In addition to the property, various kinds of rights, obligations, crafts, and skills might be passed on according with kinship roles and other social roles and status. Rules of residence, meaning residence after marriage, are an important variable in kinship system. We discussed about the rules of residence when we were discussing about the marriage, and this rules of residence plays an important role in kinship system too. And substantially, this rules of residence substantially affects the quality of a personal relationship within the kin network. So, where the mm, a newlywed couple will reside, that plays an important variable. That is plays an important role in a kinship system, and it affects the relationship within the kin network. If husband and wife set up their own independent home after the marriage, and as in case of modern society, that is known as neolocal. And a society is said to have patriarchal society when a number of factors coincide. When the descent is figure patrilineally, unilineal, but from the father side, patrilineal. When inheritance of the major property is from father to son. When residence is patrilocal, patrilocal when bride or newlywed couple moves to groom's father's house, then that residence is known as patrilocal. And when authority is concentrated in the hands of the senior male, if all these factors are there, then that society is said to be a patriarchal society, right? If a wife goes to live with the husband in his parents home, then that residence is known as patrilocal or patrivirilocal or virilocal. When the husband moves to live with the wife, it is termed as matrilocal. And rule of residence may or may not harmonize with the rules of descent. Patrilineal descent system correlate either neolocal or patrivirilocal residence pattern. Matrilineal descent system may be combined with all three types of residence, either patrilocal, neolocal, matrilocal, right? Religion. Now we'll discuss about religion. So kinship, we discuss about the family, marriage, and kinship. These three are the important institutions of the society. So relation, what is the kinship? The relationship between of an individual with the other members in the society is known as kinship, and this relationship is due to when the relationship is because of uh, either because of marriage or because of blood ties, then that is known as kinship system. Religion is the base of society, not of our society but of every society. Pioneer sociologist Emile Durkheim described it with the statement, it consists of things that surpass the limit of our knowledge. So, religion is something that surpasses the limits of our knowledge. Religion is base of each and every society. Religion is unified system of beliefs. Listen carefully. It's a unified system of beliefs, practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, set apart and forbidden beliefs and practices which unite into one single moral community called church and all those who adhere to them. So, how Durkheim describe religion? According to Durkheim, religion is unified system of beliefs and practices. Religion is what? System of beliefs and practices. And this system of beliefs and practices are relative to sacred things. Beliefs system of beliefs and practices related to the sacred, pure things. And that is to say, set apart and forbidden beliefs and practices. These beliefs, practices related to the sacred things, these things unite this society into one. These things unite the individuals and forms a one single moral community. So religion plays an important role in formation of community, in uniting the people. Some people associate religion with place of worship, other with practice, and still other with the concept that guides their daily lives. So it depends how you define the religion. Some associate it with the worship, some associate it with their guides to their daily lives, and some others with the practice. All these people can agree that religion is a system of beliefs, values, and practices concerning what a person holds sacred or considered to be spiritually significant. So, what is religion? Religion is a system of, religion is nothing but the system of beliefs, values, and practices concerning what a person or what an individual holds sacred or pure and is significant, spiritually significant, right? The sociological approach to religion, religion is religion word come from the Latin word religio, which means respect for what is sacred or pure, and religion to bind in the sense of an obligation. The term religion describes various systems of beliefs and practices concern what the people determines to be sacred and spiritual. I hope now you understand what is religion. The simplest definition of religion is, that is a system. Religion is a system of beliefs and practices concerning what the people determine to be sacred or spiritual, right? And this religion come from the Latin word religio. That is, religio means what is sacred, and religion what bind, that is, it means religion means bind in the sense of obligation, which binds people together in sense of obligation. Throughout the history and in society across the world, leaders have used religious narratives, symbols, traditions in an attempt to give more meaning and understand the universe. The practice of religion can include feast and festival, good or gods, and religion is also practiced during marriage, funeral services, music and art, meditation, sacrifice or service, and other aspect of the culture. So religion is found in every known culture, and religion can include, the practice of religion can include during feast, festival, marriage, funeral services, music, art, meditation, and other aspects of the culture. Some people think of religion as something individual because religious belief can be highly personal. Religion is also a social institution. So another institution is religion. Religion is also an institution. Marriage, family, kinship, now religion. Religion is a social institution. Social scientists recognize that religion exists as an organized and integrated set of beliefs, behaviors, norms, centered on the basic social needs and values. The history of religion as sociological concept. What is the history of religion? French sociologist Emile Durkheim defined religion as a unified system of beliefs and practices related to the sacred themes. To him, sacred means extraordinary, sometimes that inspired wonder, and which seemed connected with the concept of divine. What is sacred? Sacred, according to Emile Durkheim, sacred is something which inspires and which seemed to connected with the concept of divine. It could be anything. Sacred could be anything. We consider the idols as sacred because they inspires, they are we connect those with the concept of divine. So sacred could be anything. Durkheim argued that religion happens in the society when there is a separation between the profane and the sacred. What is profane? Profane is ordinary life or impure, and sacred is pure. So, Durkheim defined that religion is certain. What is religion? It is a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. Sacred thing is what sacred is what we consider as pure, and it is different from profane. Profane means impure. A rock, for example, isn't sacred or profane as it exists. But if someone makes it the headstone or another person uses it for the landscaping, it takes a different meaning, one sacred and one profane. If we make an idol of our gods from that stone, then that stone becomes sacred, right? The idol of Lord Ganesha made up of stone, then that stone, then at that time that stone becomes sacred. And if we use that stone for some other purpose, then that we will not consider that stone as a sacred. So sacred sacred could be which is considered as pure and which has a value, right? Durkheim is generally considered the first sociologist who analyzed religion in terms of societal impact. Religion exists in the society, but Durkheim is the one. He was the first sociologist who analyzed religion in terms of the societal impact. According to Durkheim, religion impacts the society. Durkheim believed that all religion is about community. It binds people together. That religion, the main purpose, according to Durkheim, the main purpose of religion is social cohesion and promotes the behavior of consistency. It helps in social control. This is allowed in our religion. As per our religion we can do this, as per our religion we cannot do this. So this religion binds the people together. It helps in social cohesion, it helps in social control, and offer strength for people during life's transition and tragedies, as life is a cycle of good and bad. This religion gives the strength to the people during life's transition and tragedies. When this circle moves from good to bad or from good time to bad time, then this religion plays a very important role. It plays a meaning and purpose to individual's life or to the individual. So, according to Durkheim, so this religion has an impact on the society. A religion plays an important role in social control. Religion plays an important role in social cohesion, and religion provides a meaning and purpose to individual. By applying the method of natural sciences to study of the society, he held that the source of religion and morality is collective mindset of society, that the cohesive bond of social order results from the common values in the society. So, according to Durkheim, religion binds people together, right? This is the collective mindset of the society that forms a bond between the people or the individuals in the society, and this bonding is required to maintain social stability. So this religion provides a social stability, social control by binding, by cohesion, by through the cohesion of the people. While Durkheim saw religion as a source of social stability, as per Durkheim, this religion plays an important role in cohesion and binding of the society or the control of the society. It helps in stability of the society. The German sociologist and the political economist Max Weber believed it was a precipitator of a social change. As per Durkheim, understand Weber's or Durkheim's concept. As per Durkheim, religion plays an important role in cohesion of the society. It helps in maintaining a social order, right? And this uh, because of the religion there is an organic solidarity, there is a solidarity among the people of the society. But as per Max Weber, this religion plays an important role in social change. It's a precipitator of a social change. He examined the effect of religion on economic activities and noticed that heavily Protestant society, such as those in the Netherlands, England, Scotland, and Germany, were the most highly developed capitalist societies, and that their most successful business leaders were Protestants. So, as per Max Weber, religion plays an important role in social change, and he examined the effect of religion on the economic activities. And for this, he studied as per Weber, that the Protestant society, that is the Protestant society of England, Germany, Netherlands, they are developed capitalistic society, and most successful business leaders were Protestants. Why he studied this? Why he said this? In his writing, The Protestant Work Ethics and Spirit of Capitalism, which was published in 1905, he contends that the Protestant work ethic influenced the development of capitalism. So, as per Max Weber, it is because of the religion, right? It is because of the Protestant work ethic. These Protestant work ethic or the religion influenced the development of capitalism. This religion plays an important role in economic and development of economic activities, right? Protestant work ethic influenced the development of capitalism as per Max Weber. Weber noted that the certain kind of Protestantism supported the supported the pursuit of material gain by motivating the believer to work hard, be successful, and not to spend their profits on the favorite things. The modern use of work ethics come directly from this. And although it has now lost its religious connections. So, he studied the impact of religion on the economic activities, and he has taken a case of the Protestant ethics, and in his work, the Protestant work ethic and spirit of capitalism, he observed that it is because of the Protestant work ethic the capitalism has taken a shape, or this work, the Protestant work ethic, influenced the development of capitalism, because as per this Protestant group, or the Protestant religion, they pursue that one should work for material gains. They motivate their believers to work hard, to be successful, to earn money, and not spend their money on their favorite things, but to invest the profits to make more money, right? So, as per Max Weber, religion plays an important role in social change, and he studied religion with relation to the economic activities. Right? Karl Marx, German philosopher, journalist, and revolutionary socialist, Karl Marx also studied the impact of religion on society. He believed religion reflects the social stratification of society, and that it maintains inequalities and perpetuates the status quo. For him, religion was just an extension of working class, that is, proletariat, economic suffering. He famously argued that religion is an opium of the people. Right? So, as per Karl Marx also studied the impact of religion on the society, and as per Karl Marx, religion reflects the social stratification of the society. As per Marx, religion divides the society. It stratifies the society. It makes a stratum in the society, and because of this stratification of this society or division of the society, it maintains religion maintains inequalities and perpetuates status quo. As per Karl Marx, religion is just an extension of working class, proletariat, economic suffering. That is, it divides, it stratifies the people, and it is just an extension of a working class economic suffering. Religion, as per Karl Marx, religion plays an important role in suffering of the people. According to him, he described religion as an opium of the people. For Durkheim, Weber, and Marx, who were reacting to the great social economic upheaval. So now let us compare and contrast Durkheim, Marx, and Weber. Durkheim, as per Durkheim, a religion was a force for cohesion that helped bind the members of society to the group, while Weber believed religion could be understood as something separate from the society. Marx considered religion inseparable from economy and worker, and religion could not be understood a part of capitalist society that perpetuated inequalities. Despite of their different views, these socialists believed in all centrality of the religion of the society. So, as per Durkheim, let me summarize this for you. As per Durkheim, religion plays an important role in social cohesion and social control. It binds the people together, and religion is responsible for the solidarity in the society. As per Max Weber, religion plays an important role in social change, and it is because this capitalism is a result of a religion. He studied the Protestant group. As per Marx, this Protestant ethics uh, is responsible for a rise of the capitalism, right? As per Karl Marx says, according to Karl Marx, the religion divides the society into stratum. It is really, the religion is responsible for social stratification, and it perpetuates, as per Marx, religion perpetuates inequalities among the society, and he considered, and he, as per Marx, this religion is an opium for this society, right? Theoretical perspectives on the religion. There are certain theoretical perspectives. First is functionalism. Functionalism perspectives on the religion. Functionalists contended that religion serves several functions in the society. Religion depends on this society for its existence, values, significance. Religion serves several purposes like providing answer to spiritual mysteries, offering emotional comfort, and creating a place for social interaction and the social control. So functionalist approaches, functionalism is they see positivist or positive things in each and everything. So according to the functionalist approach, this religion plays an important role in social binding. It helps in social control. It provides answers to many spiritual mysteries. It provides emotional comforts, and it creates a place for social interaction and social control. Right? Religion provides emotional comfort in the times of crisis. Religious rituals brings order, comfort, organization through shared familiar symbols and patterns of behavior. Uh, at bad times, we need people, and this religion provides an emotional comfort, especially during the time of crisis. Religious rituals brings order. It brings comfort and organization. Uh, One of the main function of religion, as per the functionalist, is to create social interaction and formation of groups. And this social interaction plays an important role in maintaining social order and for social cohesion. So, religion, when people come together to perform certain rituals and ceremonies, they interact with each other, and it is required to create a social interaction, right? And this helps in social cohesion and maintaining a social order. It provides social support and social networking, offering a place to meet others who hold similar values and place to seek help in times of needs. And it helps in cohesion and integrations. Because religion can be central to many people's concept of themselves. Sometimes there is an in group and out group feeling towards the other religion in the society or within a particular practices. We discussed about in group and out group while we were discussing about the groups. Religion promotes social control. It reinforces norms such as appropriate style of dress, following the rules, laws, regulations of behavior. Another theory, apart from this functionalist theory, another theory is conflict theory of religion. As per the conflict theorist, a religion as an institution that helps to maintain a pattern of social inequality. Conflict means where people fight with each other, right? So this, as per conflict, religion is an institution that helps to maintain a pattern of social inequality. Marx said the main role of religion is to create a social stratum. It creates inequalities in the society. According to this perspective, religion has been used to support the divine right of oppressive monarch to justify unequal social structures. So it divides on the basis of religion. We divide the people. The caste system is an example of this, right? So a religion has been used to support the or divine right of the monarch and to justify the unequal social structure, right? Social theorists are critical on the way many religions promote the idea that one should be satisfied with the existing circumstances because they are divinely ordained. This power dynamic has been used by Christian institutions for centuries to keep poor people poor, teaching them that they should not be concerned with what they lack, but their true reward will come after the death. So this conflict theorists are critical of the way the religion promotes the idea that one should be satisfied with the existing circumstances rather than trying to change those circumstances. They also point out that power in a religion are often able to dictate practices, rituals, belief through their interpretation of religious text or via proclaimed direct communication from the divine. So those who are in power, they dictate, they decide about the rules, about the rituals, about the practices. They dictate what to do, what one should do. The feminist perspective is a conflict theory view that focuses especially on the gender inequality. In terms of religion, the feminist theorists assert that although women are typically the ones to socialize children into religion, they have traditionally held very few positions of power within their religion. Even if we see that many times women are not allowed to enter certain places because of many of the reasons. A few religion and religious denominations are more gender equal, but male dominance remain the norms of the most. While interactionists are interested in what these symbols communicate, because interactionists study one-on-one everyday interaction between individual. A scholar using this approach might ask a question focused on the dynamics. Now let us discuss few world religions. The major religion in the world and India is Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Taoism. They differ in many respects, including how each religion is organized and belief system. Other differences include the nature in the belief in higher power, the history of how the world and the religion begin, and use sacred text and the object. So all these religions are somewhat similar and they differ at the certain points, right? A religion organize themselves, their institutions, practitioners, and structures in variety of functions. When the Roman Catholic Church emerged, it borrowed many of its organization principles from its ancient Roman military, turning senators into cardinals. Sociologists use different terms like denomination, sects to define the types of the organizations. Right? Hinduism, the oldest religion in the world. Hinduism originated in the Indus River Valley about 4,500 years ago in what is now modern day northwest India and Pakistan. So, it is the oldest religion. It arose with ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian culture. With roughly 1 billion followers, Hinduism is the third largest of the world's religion. Hindu believe in the divine power that can manifest as a different entities. So Hinduism is the most this is the oldest religion in the world, and there are roughly 1 billion followers and the third largest of the world's religion. And the Hindus believe in the divine power that can manifest as a different entities. There are three main incarnations, that is Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha, and are sometimes compared with manifestations of divines in Christians. So there are, as per Hindus, there are three incarnations: Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva or Mahesha. Multiple sacred texts, collectively called Vedas, contain and ritual from ancient Indian and mostly written in Sanskrit. Vedas are the most sacred and sacred text of the Hindus. It describes various rituals from the ancient Indians, and mostly Vedas are written in Sanskrit. Hindus generally believes in set of principles called dharma, which refers to one's duty in the world that corresponding with the right actions. So, the Hindu Dharma, the principle which drives the Hindu is the Hindu. The principles which drives Hindu is known as Dharma. Is called as Dharma. What is Dharma? Dharma is one's duties in the world that corresponding with the right actions. One should follow the dharma. What is dharma? The duties of an individual. It is related with the right action, what one should do, which will help the society to grow positively. Hindus also believes in karmas, or the notion that spiritual ramification of one's action are balanced cyclic, cyclically in his life or a future life. So they believes in dharma and karma. Dharma, what the dharma is one's duty in the world that corresponds with the right actions, and the karma is one's actions, and one's actions are balanced cyclically. Next is Buddhism. Buddhism was founded by Siddhartha Gautam around 500 BC. Siddhartha was said to have given up comfortable upper class life to follow one of poverty and spiritual devotion. Siddhartha was a king, was a prince, and he had given up a comfortable life for spiritual devotion and followed the spiritual devotion. At the age of 35, he famously meditated under a sacred fig tree and vowed not to rise before he achieved enlightenment. that is Bodhi. After this experience, he became to known as Buddha or enlightened one. Followers were drawn to Buddha's teaching and practices of meditation and later established a monastic order. Buddha's teaching encourages Buddhists to lead a moral life by accepting the Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths of Buddha's teaching? Life is suffering. So take it as it comes. Suffering arises from attachment to desires. Start detaching yourself. You should have control on your desires. Suffering ceases when attachment to desire ceases. And freedom from suffering is possible by following the middle way. This is very important. That freedom from suffering is possible by following the middle way. It should not be the extreme one. Life is suffering. Suffering arises because of attachment of desires. Suffering ceases when attachment to desire ceases, and freedom from suffering is possible by following the middle way. The concept of middle way is central to Buddhist thinking, which encourages people to live in the present and to practice acceptance of others. So, what is this middle way? This is central to Buddhist teaching. This middle way encourages the people to live in present and practice acceptance of others, accept others. Buddhism also tend to de-emphasize the role of Godhead, instead stressing the importance of personal responsibilities. Taoism. The purpose of life is inner peace and harmony. Tao is usually translated as a way or path. The founder of religion is generally recognized to be a man named Laozi, who lived sometimes in 6th century BC in China. Taoist beliefs emphasize the virtue of compassion and moderation. So they believe in compassion and moderation. The central concept of Tao can be understood to describe a spiritual reality, the order of universe, or the way of modern life in harmony with the former two. Judaism. Jews, a nomadic society, become monotheistic, worshipping only one God. Jews' covenant or a promise of a special relationship with Yahweh God is an important element of Judaism, and their sacred text is Torah, which Christian also follows as the first five books of the Bibles. Islam. Islam is also a monotheistic. It follows the teaching of Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 570 BC. Muhammad is seen only as a prophet, not as a divine being. And he is believed to be messenger of God or Allah, who is divine. So prophet is not a god. He is considered as a prophet. That they follow the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, and Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad is considered as prophet, not as a god, and he is believed to be messenger of God, who is divine. And the follower of Islam are called Muslims. Islam means peace and submission. And the sacred text for Muslim is Quran. As with Christianity's Old Testaments, many of the Quran stories are shared with Jewish faith. Division exists within the Islam, but all Muslims are guided by the five beliefs or practices, often called the pillars. Allah is the only God, daily prayers, helping those in poverty, fasting as a spiritual practice, and pilgrimage to the holy center of Makkah. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.